Hello, my friends. I'm Rich Larson, and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today, as you can see, we are in the beautiful state of Utah in Eagle Mountain, my favorite place to ride during the winter. Once it gets a little bit hot out here, it gets gnarly. But you guys have seen a lot of my videos. I film a lot of stuff out here, and we are joined by none other than James Flynn. Now, James is a savage on a motorcycle. He's been a consistent top 10 guy, and now he's getting top 5s in the US Hard Enduro Series. Looking for those podium finishes next, it seems. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Just working towards it every day and just trying to be the best that I can possibly be. And
I love it.
Hopefully we'll get up in that podium position sometime
I love
soon,
it.
so.
Well, what we want to talk about today is bikes. You guys love the bike reviews that we do, and I figured why not bring somebody that's even more experienced than myself. I think I'm a pretty good rider, but this guy is a savage. You guys have seen the Pro versus Joe breakdowns that we've done. James is the rider there. He's usually on a GasGas, but now he has a Beta. Now, James is on the Beta 300RR Race Edition, supported by IRC. We've got ourselves a little bit of a up-and-coming hard enduro team, somewhat of a team, I guess you could call it. We have James Flynn, obviously, on the Beta 300RR Race Edition. We also have Jack Williford, one of my students, the young 16-year-old, racing the A class on the Beta 300 Race Edition as well. Now, both these guys have barely put any time on these bikes. They've been working, trying to get them dialed in, and I want to break down what these guys are feeling. I jumped on the Betas again, coming from the Husky. Next week's episode, we're going to talk about the differences between the Husky and the Beta, but now I want James to get in depth on the differences between the stock Beta, when you first got on it, and the new race Beta that the parts and all the stuff that you've done. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the GasGas, the previous stuff that you were on. Yeah, man, I just want to get in depth, and I want people to kind of see what you've been feeling breaking down this bike. So, right off the bat, I want to talk about stock Beta. Just the stock Beta. You got on it. What did you feel coming off of the GasGas that you've been on forever? I mean, as long as I can remember, you've been on a GasGas.
Yeah.
This is the first time you've been on a different bike for a while. You got on the Beta. You rode it stock for quite a while. So break down your thoughts on the machine.
Yeah, it's first off, riding it stock, I put a lot of hours on it stock, and it's just a super competitive bike, you know, from the showroom floor. I actually kept stock jetting, stock suspension. Obviously I did tires and mousses, things like that, and then guards too, of course, to go ride hard enduro. And I was very comfortable on it right away. I remember day one, it was actually the first day that I rode it. I was out with Taylor Robert and Ryder LeBlond, and we were all doing some really sketchy drops and stuff.
Yeah, that's what all Taylor does.
Yeah, just sketchy drops.
Taylor Roberts stuff is just drops in Arizona.
And I was like, oh man, like this is gonna see if I'm comfortable with the bike or not. And
yeah,
I did the drops and I didn't think much, you know, and I was super comfortable on it right away. And I also felt like on hill climbs, things like that, I was able to do more stuff that I maybe wasn't able to do before because the bike had just a little bit more grunt. So it was a little bit easier to carry me to the top of those climbs.
I like it.
And I was super impressed with it in that. Also, the chassis seemed like it was maybe a little bit more rigid than the GasGas that I was on before.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
what year was the GasGas you were on?
It was a 23, so it was that softer chassis.
The softer chassis.
I know that the newer ones are...
The newer ones. We'll talk about that.
Definitely, newer ones I know are a lot stiffer. I haven't really spent much time on them, but... That was something that I noticed too, kind of right off the bat, but it was still
interesting.
It felt a little bit more responsive, but maybe sometimes not as comfortable. But that was also it was brand new at the time, so the chassis kind of broke in a little bit. Now it feels a little bit softer.
Okay.
So
let's just talk about if you were on a stock GasGas KTM Husky, 23, since that's what you rode a lot of. If you were on one of those and you were on a stock Beta, the differences between those two, what would you say? The biggest difference?
So that 23, like I feel like the suspension, I mean, you could get by with the 23 GasGas suspension.
The stock WP stuff.
Yeah, the stock WP stuff.
And that's not the Explorer, is it?
I was on Air Forks actually.
So that was an Air Forks.
That would have been an Air Forks. I actually put KYBs on that bike.
Oh, okay.
Off the get-go, we always put KYBs.
So right off the bat, you got on the Beta, which is stock KYB.
Yeah.
And you were hitting Taylor Robert drops.
Yeah, and comfortably too. I would
Comfortably.
say. Yeah,
So
I think you could.
stock versus stock, stock WP versus stock KYB.
The stock KYB is I would say you could actually go confidently race with it.
Okay.
To where the stock WP stuff, probably not. At least for the Explorer or the Air Force.
Okay.
I don't know how the new closed cartridge system that they have is. I haven't spent much time on it. I know you have it on your Husky.
Yep.
So I don't know much about that system, but
It's definitely better.
yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. So what about carb TPI? The 23 was a TPI, correct?
It was.
You
Yeah.
did? So I put a lot of time on TPIs. Obviously, you did. Carb versus TPI. What's the biggest difference there? Stock versus stock. We're not talking getting wild with jetting and TSP and all the stuff that you can do.
Yeah. Stock to stock, I'd say that, like I mentioned earlier, when I hopped on the beta, I felt like there was a lot more stuff I was able to do, just hill climbs.
Just the grunt and everything,
Yeah,
right?
because it had so much more grunt and so much low end.
I feel like it was more tractable, like you could hold traction better.
Yeah, 100%. I could ride a gear higher too, even on like medium speed enduro stuff, if you want to call it that. I could ride a gear high just through like the choppy, rocky stuff, and that would kind of keep the bike settled better. I felt like riding a gear high, to where on the TPI I always had to be in a lower gear, and it would be more sputtery and kind of more choppy, I guess you could say, to where I couldn't ride a gear high in the TPI because it would just fall on its face.
Gotcha.
But not to, I don't want to like bash.
Yeah, so let's cover that. Let's cover that right now. Like, obviously, I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh well, you ride, you're on a beta.
Yeah.
We're getting a little bit of support from beta. We're still buying these bikes, but we are getting a little help from beta to run this little fun team that we're trying to be competitive in these hard enduros. And let's say, what's something you like about the GasGas more than you like about the beta?
The GasGas, I think,
or KTM umbrella.
Yeah. At least the bike that I was on before, I liked that frame a lot.
Yeah.
It turned really well. It was very comfortable. It seemed like it had a lot of flex to it. The foot peg position, the foot peg to handlebar position, seems like it was a little bit wide, like a little bit longer, I guess you could say, which made for a little bit more comfortable ride. Now, I am at a stock foot peg height on this bike, so I'm sure that once we go to the lower offset peg, that's going to help a lot. But yeah, that was like one of the main things I'd say, is that the chassis going back and forth was a little bit more comfortable on the GasGas. But I rode it for so long, I was so used to it too.
Absolutely. So how about power wise? I mean, so personally, something I love about the TPIs is they run the same all the time. I was just saying this earlier. It's like, if you have a sputter that you don't like about the bike, well, it'll do that at 0 feet or 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
Runs the same no matter what, which is great for 90% of riders. It's like the average guy doesn't want to be messing with jetting, where jetting, if you don't know what you're doing, can be finicky. There can be big changes in starting out in the morning at 30 degrees and ending like it is right now at 65. There can be a big difference in the way the machine runs. So you get a lot of consistency out of that TPI, the computer side of things. That's great. What do you think of as far as the way the bike runs, stock versus stock? What do you like more about the GasGas, and then what do you like more about the beta?
Just engine characteristics.
Yeah, engine characteristics specific.
The GasGas, I do like the consistency, like you were saying, from 0 to 10,000 feet. It's going to run pretty consistent, and you don't have to worry or think about jetting.
Yeah.
That's nice. The beta, I definitely like the low end grunt that it has.
Yeah, it just has that.
And it seems like it's a very tractable power too.
Yeah.
So
I like personally that with the carbs, I just like the way they run. I've said this 1,000 times in the videos. They just run clean and crisp when they're jetted right. Man, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat a properly jetted.
Definitely.
Carb.
And that's been a big learning curve for me, is learning how to jet, and then knowing like what throttle positions and RPMs, like, when I'm on the pilot jet versus when I'm on the main jet, or if the needle needs to be changed.
Yeah, right.
And messing with different, because we've tested a couple of different needles to see what one I like. The Beta's needles versus Suzuki needles, and things
so
like
that's a great jumping point. Now, what have we done to the Betas, to this race bike that we have right here? What have you done to that bike to get it to the place where you like it, where it's race ready? starting with jetting, do you know what needle you're on?
It's the NECW.
NECW, gotcha. Okay.
I'm going up to Colorado to ride with Cody tomorrow, and it's going to be like 8,000 feet. I think I'm going to throw the NECJ in it.
Gotcha, J. So currently you're on second clip on the NECW?
Yes.
So that's what I ran all the time. It was like killer until summer, and then I would have to change. But in winter, there was like no better needle than, and this is what, like 6,000 feet or so. So it ran so good. But the J would be good, I think, in Colorado to start with second clip. So that's what you're running, Suzuki needle. That makes it run crisp. When I rode it, it feels really good. Both bikes. So Jerry's is also an NECW right now as well. And they both run really similar, which is cool. And that's something I like about the carbs is like there's less of a disparity between two bikes compared to a TPI or a TBI. Yeah. You get on two different, the fuel injected bikes, and to me, they feel very different. And we did a video about that a long time ago. You can check it out right here. So that's a huge thing. Now, so you've got your jetting dialed in. What else have you done to the race bike?
The suspension, we went softer valving, much softer valving
than
stock. Although I do actually think that the stock valving is pretty impressive for just off the showroom floor. Yeah. We went softer and faster rebound too. It's super plush. Yeah. And then towards the end of the stroke, it has pretty good hold up. Yeah. Those big hits. And that's exactly what I felt when I was switching between Jerry's and yours. You know, Jerry's is closer to stock, and Jerry's is, it doesn't hold up as good on the super hard hits. Yeah. But his is almost like there's a time where it wants to settle, and it's kind of interesting. That could be, again, it could be kind of the stock stuff to me, just stock forks. Like when I first got the bike, it almost seemed like in the chattery stuff, it was like super stiff and wasn't wanting to soak up very much. Right. But then like on the big hits, I was just freaking clapping them out pretty good and like bottoming pretty easily. It's still like, it felt good, but that was kind of my two biggest complaints, I guess, with it. Gotcha. It was almost like stiff where you didn't want it stiff, and then soft where you didn't want it soft. So we've got jetting, we've got suspension. Is there any specific like special stuff that you do as prep for the race? I mean, obviously we have protection. We got the skid plate, the SXS skid plate. You put radiator guards on and all that stuff. Is there anything that you do specifically on the Beta that you didn't do on the GasGas, or vice versa? Nothing super special at all on the Beta that I do. All the stuff that I do, I definitely was doing on the GasGas on an SOS, like a backup start button in case if the one on the bar breaks. Sometimes I'll do like wire loom on some of the wires to protect the wires from, you know, getting pinched with like rocks or even sticks or branches or whatever. Yeah. I'll go over and dielectric grease everything, and then silicone some of the connections to just get a more like watertight, you know, so no corrosion is going to be happening. Gonna put a kickstart kit on it too in case if the battery dies. Gotcha. That's pretty unlikely. Obviously the fan, I think you brought that up before, but that's super important. Yeah. Doing that, like wire tying the spokes and the wheels. Everything, like, and all that is just preventative, I would say, to avoid, because I mean, we put these bikes through a lot in a hard enduro, and so we just do everything you possibly can to like keep them protected and keep them going. Was there anything more that you felt like you did on the GasGas? Like, did you carry something extra on the KTMs? I mean, obviously there are more electronic stuff. There's more. I definitely was carrying more parts in the van with me with the GasGas. Oh, okay. And that's not even because it was like an unreliable bike or anything. It's just because there's sensors and like other, you know, little things that could go wrong that I was always carrying. I also like things like I was running different heads on the GasGas, so I always had like different head inserts, and I was kind of changing them depending on like riding enduro cross or hard enduro or what elevation I was at. I had like the dyno jet thing on the TPI too. That was basically, it was a fuel controller, so it was changing the mapping of the bike, you know, the timing and the fueling of it. I was doing the injection relocation on it too. Welding the crank, because I was always snapping the cranks and like bringing them out of true. I'm not doing that on these bikes, so I'm really happy about that, because then we're not splitting the cases from the get-go. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like there's kind of a lot, and not like the other bike too was great. I really thought it was a great bike. But it just seems like there's a lot less that we're doing to these. Interesting. So right off the bat, maybe the simplicity of the Beta is something that's a benefit. Huge to me. Yeah. Because just less that I have to worry about and more that I can focus on my performance and not the
Yeah,
bike
right.
or keeping the bike going, whatever it may be. That's huge to me.
So I love it, man. It's been awesome watching you ride. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Husky versus the Beta, because I did some switching. I got on the Betas, I went back to the Husky. I've got some insights I want to break down for you guys, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. But I hope you guys are enjoying the channel. If you are, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to follow James Flynn, James_Flynn_55 on Instagram. Follow myself at RichLarson511. Follow IRC Moto. And until next time, keep shredding.